Drones. They come in many types, from the ones we all know and love to those used for delivery and transport, and also the ones used in the military. Within the military there's also a big variety. Small ones, mostly used for close-range reconnaissance, larger ones, capable of wide variety of missions and long-range operations, and something in between. These mid-sized drones are too heavy to be launched by hand, but still light enough not to need a proper runway. They can be launched from a catapult. And I think you already know where I'm going with this. Inspired by those drone catapult, I'm going to make one myself. Of course, mine will be smaller than this one, because the only flying thing I have is this foam glider, so the catapult will be designed to fit it. But as you will see later, it will still be really powerful, so let's get started. The catapult will be basically a big slingshot. To launch the plane, I'll put it here on top of the sliding element, which will slide on this metal frame using these rubber bands, and when it hits the end, the plane will be launched. And as you see on this schematic, besides the frame, the sliding element and the rubber bands, I'll need also a fork at the front to safely attach the bands, some kind of a stand, and also a trigger mechanism to hold the sliding element. Yeah, so let's get to work. The first step was to prepare the frame by cutting it, drilling holes and mounting the angle brackets. The next step was to make the fork, the part where the bands are attached. This needs to be strong, so I chose a thick piece of wood and cut it into the shape of a fork. Then I made slots to attach the bands. After that I polished it to give it a better look. Finally I mounted the fork to the frame, and that was it. When the frame and the fork were ready, the next step was to attach the rubber bands. This was quite a hard process at first, but I managed to attach them. And despite looking like they might break at any moment, these strings actually hold the bands quite firmly. Now the sliding element, which is responsible for holding the plane while being pushed by the rubber bands. Don't be fooled by this schematic, it represents the final version of the catapult, and I made it after everything was ready, to use it in this video and to look more professional. The real making and designing was a long process of trials and errors with many failures and flawed designs along the way, and this is a great example of that. First, I made a prototype to test if it actually slides on the frame, and it did a pretty good job. Then I designed the part that will hold the plane and the connector between the new sliding element and the plane holder. Okay, so the sliding element is also ready, plane fits perfectly. So now I need to tie the bands, make the stand for the frame, and make the trigger mechanism. So let's go. To tie the bands I used this, I'm not really sure what material it is, but it's pretty strong and I'm about 30% sure it will survive. The bands are tied, and now we are getting somewhere. Then I cut the wood for the frame stand, glued the parts together and 3D printed the connector between the stand and the frame. Yeah, with this stand it looks way better, like a large caliber weapon or something. The trigger mechanism has one main job, to hold the sliding part while resisting the tension of the rubber bands and then release it when pushed. Okay, that's actually three things, so it's pretty important. I designed it, 3D printed it, assembled it, and look how cool it is. This trigger mechanism looks just so cool. Yet it's so simple to use. If I had to choose the coolest part in this launcher, I think I would choose this. It's also somehow so satisfying to just play with it and click it. And now let's test it. This part is broke completely, so I have to repair it. Also, the stand wasn't mounted properly, so I think I'll just glue it in, and I need to add a bumper here too. But at least the trigger is undamaged. So I did it. I glued the sliding element and the stand, added the bumper, And then I tried once again. I wasn't exactly sure then if the bands would suddenly untie like previously. It broke again. Well, it needs to be stronger then, but also I'll need to put this sliding element reversed to make it hit the bumper with larger surface, and also put some shock absorbing material on it, and of course that's add more bumpers. But we are getting closer and closer to success, so let's go. So I did it. I added 2 additional bumpers here, also some kind of a soft material, and of course I made it stronger to not break again, and then I was ready for the next attempt. That's probably not a good idea to glue it, but I think I don't have any other option. I glued the band and let's see if it works. Success? Failure? Or what? We are almost there. At least the plane went up, but there was also a minor problem there because it ascended too early, meaning it didn't have as much energy as it could have. The solution to this is to ensure the plane ascends just after the sliding element hit the bumpers. I achieved this by designing small claws that hold the plane while it accelerates. However, the plane wasn't the only problem here. Once again, the top part learned how to fly. There's an easy solution though: make it stronger. And now let's test it. Yes, success. Everything worked good, the top part didn't break, the plane started just after hitting the bumpers. I was so happy then, I tested it once again. Let's see it. It worked perfectly, so now it's time to test it in an open space. With the catapult ready, I headed outside the city to test its full power. I launched the glider a few times, so take a look. Also, I wanted to see if the glider flies further with a catapult compared to just throwing it by hand. And as you can see, there is no clear winner here. When launched with a lot of force, the glider tends to go up instead of straight forward. Even with a gentler launch, it still turns at the end, so it's tough to measure the distance. With these results, neither method really stands out as better, but I wanted to try one more thing: hitting this target with a catapult. I gave it several shots, but the glider was pretty unpredictable, making it really hard to hit accurately, even up close.